A thick perfume of smoldering sage and crushed pine needles clung to the night air, weaving through the ancient clearing where flames from dozens of torches flickered against tall stones. The humid summer breeze carried the smoke in restless swirls, making the shadows dance across the trees. I lingered at the edge of the gathering, half hidden behind the gnarled trunk of an oak, watching as the Silver Crest pack filed into the circle in their ceremonial finery. The women moved with elegance, their gowns dyed in deep earthy shades and adorned with beads or stitched patterns that shimmered when the firelight caught them. The men wore leather vests and streaks of paint across their bare skin, symbols of pride and tradition etched in bold colors. Tonight marked the pack's most revered ritual, the annual mating ceremony. It was the night when young women of age presented themselves before the Alpha and his council, offering their futures for judgment, their hopes resting on bonds meant to last a lifetime. It was sacred, weighty, and if I were being honest, a place where I didn't belong. Lyra, stop skulking in the shadows and help me with these herbs, Aunt Marin hissed, appearing from the circle's edge. Her sharp eyes flicked toward Elder Thorn, who was meticulously placing sacred items upon the altar stone at the center. Reluctantly, I stepped from my hiding place, tugging self-consciously at my plain brown dress. It hung a little too loosely, the same garment my cousin had worn the year before when she was chosen and mated, now borrowed for my duty tonight. Where others my age wore gowns marked by hours of embroidery or careful beadwork, mine bore no decoration, just the stark reminder that I didn't quite belong. I shouldn't even be here. I whispered, taking the bundle of dried herbs from Marin's hands. Her voice softened, though her tone remained firm. You're 22 now. Every unmated woman must attend. That is the law of the pack. Those 2 words pack law had haunted my life since birth. In our world, strength and perfection of form were everything, and I was the anomaly, the wolf who could never fully shift. My body twisted in pain whenever I tried, leaving me suspended in some cruel half-form, neither fully wolf nor fully human. The shame of it clung to me like a second skin. They only want me here to serve, I muttered, arranging the herbs into small piles, crushing a few leaves to release their fragrant oils. No one expects the Alpha to even glance my way. Marin's hand clamped around my wrist so tightly that her nails bit into my skin. Never use that word, she snapped, her voice trembling. I regretted my words instantly, especially when he wins. I saw the pain flicker in her eyes. My mother, Marin's sister, had died long ago, cut down by rogues while shielding me during an ambush. I was only 7, but the memory lingered, faint though it had become. Her gentle hands smoothing my hair, her voice whispering that one day my difference would be my strength. All I had left of her was the silver crescent moon pendant that hung at my throat, worn smooth from years of fidgeting fingers. I'm sorry, I murmured, lowering my gaze. But pretending feels pointless. I'll never be chosen. Before Marin could reply, the clearing hushed. The Alpha had arrived, Doc Nathaniel. Thorn stepped from his lodge and into the circle. Even from a distance, his presence was formidable. Tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair falling past his shoulders, he carried himself with the kind of power that demanded attention. At 35, he had already ruled the pack for nearly a decade, forced into leadership when his father died. Unexpectedly. Unlike his predecessor mated young, and bound by a loveless union, Nathaniel remained unclaimed. For years, the finest women of our pack and beyond had been paraded before him, only to be rejected. Some whispered he sought a political advantage. Others believed he was incapable of love. Whatever the truth, the elders worried for the future. Begins, Marin whispered, nudging me back into the shadows. Stay low, help serve when called, and then we can slip away. Grateful for her small mercy, I obeyed, pressing into the dim edges of the circle as Elder Vargas raised her arms toward the swollen moon. Her voice, strong despite her years, carried across the crowd. On this blessed night, beneath the full light of the moon, we gather to uphold the oldest of our traditions. Tonight, our daughters present themselves, so that the Alpha may choose his Luna, the heart of our pack, and the mother of our future. 7 women stepped forward one by one, each radiant in her own way. Serena, daughter of the head warrior, golden hair catching firelight like a halo. Twins Daria and Lena, known for their sweet songs and laughter. Elena, gifted in healing, her family respected across generations. 2 more came from neighboring allies, their presence an offering of strength to our borders. And then there was Kira. My chest tightened when she glided into the torchlight, raven hair tumbling in waves down her back, amber eyes gleaming. She was everything a Luna was expected to be, striking, strong, pure of shift, her bloodline rivaling the Alpha's own. Once, as children, we had been close. But when she realized aligning herself with the pack's weakest link would drag her down, she cast me aside with cruel finality. Her words from years ago still burned. You're a burden. They only keep you because your mother died for you. A sharp nudge from Marin snapped me from the memory. The wine, Lyra. Quickly. Flushing, I hurried to the altar where 7 goblets waited. My duty was simple. Pour the sacred wine, fermented berries laced with herbs said to reveal truth, into each vessel. My hands shook slightly as I lifted the heavy pitcher, aware of the stares, the whispers, the broken wolf. Poor girl. What a shame. I filled each goblet carefully, one by one. When I reached the last, Kira's, she stepped closer, her perfume cutting sharply against the smoky air. Try not to spill, she murmured, her voice dripping venom. Better yet, vanish when you're done. No one wants you here. I kept my eyes lowered, filling her cup to the line etched in silver. I'm only doing what's required. Her laugh was soft and cruel. As if you're capable of more. When she swept away, I set the pitcher down with trembling hands, forcing myself to stand firm. I would not let her see me break. The ritual began. Each woman approached the Alpha in turn, offering her goblet and reciting the words of devotion. He sipped from each, his face unreadable, his power so quiet and steady it seemed to vibrate in the air dot when Kira stepped forward. The circle fell into reverent silence. She carried herself with flawless poise, her voice clear as she pledged her strength and loyalty. For the first time that night, Nathaniel's lips curved into the faintest smile as he drank from her cup. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Surely. The choice had been made. My stomach clenched, already planning my escape into the trees. But before I could slip away, the air split with shouts. 2 warriors burst into the circle, dragging between them the bloodied body of a third. Alpha! One cried, breath ragged. The Black Claw pack has crossed our border. At least 20, heading straight for the settlement. They've killed Thomas. Chaos erupted. Nathaniel was on his feet in an instant, every muscle alive with authority. How long? Less than an hour. Torches sputtered as panic rippled outward, voices rising in fear. The Black Claw had stalked our borders for years, ambitious, ruthless. Striking now during the sacred night was a cruelly clever move. Warriors, to me. The Alpha's command rang like steel through the din. Council, evacuate the children and elders. Secure the caves. Everyone else, prepare to defend our home. Around me, the pack scattered into motion. I stood frozen, shame burning in my chest. I was no fighter, no council member. Nothing of use. Marin appeared, gripping my arm tightly. Go to the healing den. Prepare supplies. You can help there. Relief and dread mingled inside me as I turned to obey. But Nathaniel's voice thundered again, halting me mid-step. "The ceremonial cave," he commanded the council. "Closer." "Then the safe caverns, defensible, stocked. Take them there." The sacred mountain cave, its narrow entrance and hidden stores, would become their refuge. The pack surged to follow his orders. Heart-hammering, I broke into a run toward the healer's lodge, smoke and cries of panic chasing me into the dark. The air was chaos wolves racing through the settlement, children crying, warriors shouting. Commands of steel and claw were gathered for battle. Smoke, sweat, and the metallic tang of blood already thickened the night. I forced myself to focus on Aunt Marin's words. The healing den. Supplies. Purpose. The lodge stood low and broad near the eastern edge of our land, a place where herbs dried in bundles across the rafters and pallets lay ready for the wounded. I slipped inside, my pulse drumming so hard it made my ears ache. Healers were already in motion, moving with the efficiency of those who had practiced for nights like this. Tessa, the lead healer, looked up when I entered, her lined face calm despite the storm outside. "Lyra," she said briskly, as if my presence was expected. "Prepare poultices for blood loss 20 at least." Gratitude surged through me. A command, a clear task. I hurried to the storage shelves, pulling jars of dried leaves and honey. My fingers worked quickly, crushing herbs, mixing pastes with water until the bitter, earthy scent filled my nose. I had always been quick with remedies, perhaps because pain and I were old acquaintances. The agony of half-shifts, bones snapping. Halfway, flesh tearing where it shouldn't. Those experiences had etched empathy into my hands. Outside, the war drums of battle grew louder shouts, snarls, the horrifying crunch of bone. I worked faster, my trembling hands steadying as muscle memory took over. By the time I had finished 15 poultices, the door slammed open. 2 warriors staggered in, dragging a third between them. His leg hung mangled, blood pooling onto the floor. Rogues flanked from the north. One gasped, lowering their injured comrade. "They're circling the settlement." The Alpha ordered all non-fighters to the ceremonial cave. Tessa's face tightened as she wrapped a broken arm. "The wounded cannot be moved." "The Alpha was clear," the warrior snapped. "He's sending a defensive line here, but everyone who can walk goes to the cave." Tessa's eyes flicked toward me. "Lyra, take what you've made and go. The cave will need you." My chest squeezed with conflict. I could stay and help. Here where? Blood already stained the floor. But her voice softened, gentler now. "There are few healers there. You'll save more lives." I nodded, gathering the poultices into a leather satchel. The moment I stepped outside, the air slammed into me like a wall howl's rising fire. Cracking, a sharp stink of terror. I clutched my mother's pendant and ran. The path to the ceremonial cave lay west, but the eastern border, the heart of the fighting, was too near. I veered north, taking a narrow hunting trail that wound into the forest. The woods were eerily silent. Even the insects had quieted, as though holding their breath. Each step cracked twigs, crunched leaves. If only I could shift properly, I thought. Bitterly, I could glide through the dark like the others. Instead, I stumbled, clumsy in human form. Halfway there, the underbrush rustled, my breath caught. Slowly, I crouched behind a fallen log, heart hammering so violently, I thought the whole forest might hear it. A shadow slipped through the tree's dark fur, hulking frame, eyes glinting. A black claw scout, too large to be a pup, too confident to fear discovery. I pressed myself to the damp earth, hardly daring to breathe. The rogue lifted his head, sniffing the air. His gaze cut toward me. "Please. Moon goddess, don't let the wind shift. Just then, a howl split the night. Deep, commanding. The Alpha's call. The rogue's ears twitched. With a low growl, he turned and sprinted toward the battle. Only when silence fell again did I release the air from my lungs. My limbs trembled, but I pushed to my feet and ran harder. The trail steepened, winding upward into the western cliffs. At last, torchlight glowed ahead. Guards flanked the cave entrance, weapons in hand, their faces grim. Lyra? One called Wren, a young warrior who had once helped me gather firewood when no one else would. His eyes widened. "We thought you were lost in the east." "I was at the den," I said breathlessly, holding up the satchel. "Tessa sent me with supplies." He stepped aside. "Get inside. It's crowded, be careful." The moment I crossed the threshold, noise crashed over me. The cavern roared with frightened voices. Children sobbed, elders barked orders. The wounded moaned. The wide chamber, so vast during winter rituals, now felt suffocating with nearly 100 bodies pressed inside. I edged toward the back, where the injured lay. An older woman with shaky hands struggled to bind a gash. I knelt beside her, offering the satchel. "Poultices," I said softly. Relief spread across her face. "Thank the goddess. These won't stop bleeding without them." Together we worked, pressing the mixtures into wounds, binding arms, soothing whimpers. Time vanished in the rhythm of healing. Here, with blood and herbs staining my hands, I felt useful, almost whole. The clash outside grew louder. Then cheers, howls, the sound of victory. Warriors began pouring in, limping, bloody but triumphant. The Black Claws retreat. One announced, voice echoing. The Alpha led the charge himself, struck down their second with one blow. Shouts of relief thundered. I scanned the warriors' faces, desperate for Marin. She wasn't among them. My stomach nodded Dot, and then he entered. Alpha Nathaniel. Thorn filled the cave's mouth, still in wolf form, massive, black as midnight, amber eyes glowing. Blood streaked his fur, but he moved with the smooth grace of one unbroken. The cavern fell into silence as he padded forward. With a ripple of motion, he shifted wolf to man, as seamless as water flowing. Naked, unashamed, he accepted a cloak from a warrior and stood tall before his people. "The danger is past," his deep voice reverberated. But this was no random raid. The Black Claw struck knowing our guard was lowered. "They will return." Murmurs of anger rippled. He continued, steady as stone. 4 of our own gave their lives: Thomas, Lyle, Sarah, Damon. At dawn, we honor them. Tonight, the children and elders remain here, the wounded as well. Warriors secure the borders. His gaze swept the cavern. When his eyes brushed mine, my heart stumbled. For a moment, his attention felt like a hand pressed against my skin. Then he looked away, conferring with his second. I bent over a patient, pretending calm, but my chest ached with a strange, unfamiliar flutter. The night dragged on. I worked without rest, moving from one wound to the next, offering water, binding gashes. Fatigue numbed my limbs, but I pushed through, the knowledge that others depended on me keeping me upright. Near dawn, I finally slumped against the stone wall, eyelids heavy. Just a moment, I told myself, just to gather strength. Sleep took me Dot when I stirred again. Warmth pressed against me. A deep, steady heartbeat thudded beneath my ear. My eyes blinked open, and I saw him. Nathaniel Thorne. Carrying me, Dot's strong arms cradled my body, one beneath my knees, the other wrapped around my back. His chest was broad, his stride steady, his gaze fixed ahead as if the weight of me was nothing. Shock paralyzed me, Dot. I gasped. He looked down, meeting my eyes. Something unspoken sparked in the air between us. "You're awake," he said, voice low, rumbling through his chest into my bones. "Yes," I stammered, mortified. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to fall asleep." "You can put me down, I can—" "No," he said simply. "You tended the wounded without rest. Now you'll let others tend you." I opened my mouth to protest, but then realized everyone was staring. The pack moved in a slow procession back toward the settlement, and every pair of eyes seemed fixed on me, carried in the Alpha's arms like something fragile and precious. Whispers rose: shock, confusion, disbelief, and from some, hostility. Near the front, Kira's face blazed with outrage, her amber eyes burning with fury. "Alpha," I whispered urgently, "this isn't proper. People are watching." A faint smile curved his lips. His gaze stayed forward. "I decide what is proper in my pack. Lyra Blackwood." Hearing my name in his voice sent a shiver racing through me. I fell silent, too overwhelmed to argue. Instead, I let myself rest against him, absorbing his warmth, the steady beat of his heart. It had been so long since anyone had held me. When we reached the settlement, I saw devastation. Lodges torn, blood staining the ground, pack members moving with grim determination. Nathaniel carried me straight to the small cabin I shared with. "Marin," I stared at him in disbelief as he set me gently at the door. "Rest," he commanded softly. "At sunset, we honor the fallen." And then, his eyes darkened, "The ceremony resumes." And with that, he turned away, leaving me trembling with questions I couldn't name. When I awoke again, the world was quiet. My body ached as if I had run for days, every muscle heavy with fatigue. Sunlight slanted through the shutters of our small cabin, casting pale stripes across the floor. Aunt Marin's hand shook my shoulder gently. "Lyra, wake up," she urged, her voice carrying a mixture of urgency and something I couldn't place anticipation, maybe, or fear. I pushed myself upright, rubbing at my eyes. "What is it?" "Is there more fighting?" "No," she said quickly. "The warriors hold the borders, but the memorial service begins in an hour. And afterward," her gaze flicked to the green dress, folded neatly on the chair, "the mating ceremony resumes." I blinked, still groggy. "They're continuing with it?" "After everything that happened?" Marin's lips tightened. "The Alpha decreed it, and his word is law." Anger and confusion twisted in me. Shouldn't our focus be on defenses? On rebuilding? What sense does it make to hold a ritual now? Her eyes softened with something I didn't recognize. Pity? Hope? "Many believe a Luna is exactly what we need to strengthen us. And you," she trailed off, rummaging through the wardrobe, "you cannot wear that old brown rag tonight." "You?" "Need something better." I frowned. "Why?" "I won't be standing before him. I've done my duty." Marin turned sharply. "Do you truly not understand?" She came closer, lowering her voice. "The Alpha carried you, Lyra, through the settlement, in full view of every pack member. He didn't have to. He could have woken you or left you. But he chose to carry you himself." My heart lurched. "He was only being kind, because I helped the wounded." She laughed softly, though it sounded closer to disbelief. "Kindness? Nathaniel Thorne is not known for public displays of affection, especially not toward." She hesitated, but I finished for her bitterly. "Toward the defective." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't call yourself that. That's not what I meant. He has never shown such care for anyone of lower rank. And yet he carried you as if you were precious." Her words planted a seed of something I didn't want to name. Hope. Longing. I shoved it down. "You're imagining things." "Perhaps," she said. "But tonight, you must look your best." At last she produced a dress of deep green, one I had never seen. Simple yet elegant, its fabric draped smoothly, fitting as if it had been made for me, Marin helped lace it at the back, stepping away with tears glistening in her eyes. You look like your mother, she whispered. I touched the crescent pendant at my throat. Do you really think so? Yes, she said firmly. The same quiet strength, the kind that endures. Emotion choked me as I hugged her. Thank you for everything. Together, we left for the memorial. The central clearing was hushed, 4 pyres rising into the sky, each bearing one of the fallen. Alpha Thorn's voice carried over the gathered pack as he honored their sacrifice. I stood at the edges, among the lower ranks, my eyes fixed on the flames. Tomas, who once helped me with firewood. Sarah, always kind. Lyle and Damon, warriors who had nodded to me in passing. I had not known them deeply, yet their loss hollowed me all the same. As fire devoured wood and flesh, smoke curling toward the sky, grief bound us in silence. But then, as the embers dimmed, the atmosphere shifted. Pack members turned their faces toward the ceremonial circle, whispers rippling like wind through leaves. Despite our mourning, anticipation hung thick in the air. Tonight, at last, the Alpha would choose. I wanted to retreat, to stay hidden in the cabin, but Marin's firm hand guided me forward. Trust me, Lyra, she murmured. The stone circle had been hastily repaired. New torches burned brightly, the altar restored. The 7 women once again stood before the pack. Their gowns, though, bore faint reminders of the night before: torn seams, smudges of dirt, hair slightly undone. Even Kira, ever flawless, carried shadows beneath her eyes. I slipped to the very back, hugging myself against the cool night breeze, grateful for the green dress's warmth. Elder Vargas raised her arms. Last night, our sacred ceremony was interrupted by enemies who sought our downfall. Yet here we stand, unbroken, united. The tradition continues. Tonight, our Alpha will choose his Luna. She turned to him, seated in his ceremonial chair. Alpha Thorn, have you reached your decision? The crowd held its breath. Nathaniel rose, his presence radiating authority. I have. He stepped forward. The women straightened, expectant, their eyes shining. But he did not stop before them. He walked past the line without a glance. Confusion rippled like a wave. He moved deeper into the crowd, amber eyes scanning the faces, searching. My breath stilled. No, impossible. Then his gaze locked on mine. Each step he took toward me seemed louder than thunder. The crowd fell into stunned silence. Whispers rose, incredulous. He stopped only when he stood before me, so close I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Lyra Blackwood, he said, his voice carrying for all to hear. Your courage. Last night, your steady hands, your quiet strength when others faltered. These are the qualities I seek in a Luna. Stand with me. The world tilted. My voice caught. Alpha, I don't understand. He smiled faintly. I am asking you to be my mate, my Luna. Gasps spread like wildfire. Kira's face twisted with rage. The other women stared, some with pity, others with disbelief. Terror and disbelief tangled inside me. But I'm defective, I whispered before I could stop myself. I can't shift. I'll weaken the bloodline. The pack will never accept. His eyes darkened, his voice sharp. Never call yourself that again. Your worth is not measured in shifts. As for the pack, they will accept my choice or they will answer to me. My voice trembled. Why? Me? There are stronger, more beautiful, more suitable. He reached out, fingers brushing the silver crescent at my throat. Heat flared where his skin touched. Because when others ran, you healed. When danger rose, you carried medicine through the dark. And when all the world dismissed you, you endured with compassion. From the moment I carried you this morning, I knew you were meant to be mine. Something broke open in me. A fragile Hope I had buried deep. Could this be real? I don't know what to say, I whispered. Say yes, he urged, his gaze burning. Say you will be my mate, my Luna, my partner in shaping a pack that values courage and compassion as much as strength. Silence engulfed the circle. Every breath, every eye, hung on me. The pendant lay warm against my chest, my mother's voice echoing faintly in memory. One day your difference will be your strength. Yes, I said, my voice trembling but growing stronger. Yes, I will be your Luna. A collective gasp rose, followed by a storm of murmurs. But Nathaniel's face broke into a smile genuine, breathtaking. He swept me into his arms, lifting me as if I weighed nothing. The crowd parted in stunned silence as he carried me toward the ceremonial chair. Alpha, what are you doing? I whispered, flustered. Following tradition, he said simply, his eyes gleaming. The Alpha carries his chosen mate to complete the ritual. The expressions around us varied: shock, disapproval, fury. Aunt Marin's face shone with tears of joy. Kira's glare burned like fire, a silent promise of vengeance. But Nathaniel's arms tightened around me. Let them watch, he murmured, his breath brushing my ear. Let them see that their Alpha chooses you. At the altar, Elder Vargas brought forth the ornate goblet etched with moons and wolves. Alpha Thorn has chosen. As tradition commands, they will share the sacred wine, binding their spirits. Nathaniel sipped, then held it to my lips. The wine was sweet, heavy, filling me with warmth. With this, the bond begins, the elder intoned. May the moon goddess bless their union. Nathaniel settled into the chair with me still cradled in his lap. Exhaustion washed over me again, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. Rest, he whispered, pressing a kiss to my hair. I have you. Despite the eyes of the entire pack, my lids grew heavy. I drifted into sleep, safe in his arms. The last thing I heard were whispers of disbelief. She fell asleep on the Alpha's shoulder? What does it mean? And his voice deep and certain. It means she trusts me completely. And that is the greatest gift a Luna can give. I woke to the scent of cedarwood and smoke, richer than the faint herbs of my cabin. The bed beneath me was vast, layered with thick furs, far softer than anything I had ever known. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. Then memory struck the ceremony, the choice, the Alpha's arms, carrying me. My eyes snapped open. The chamber was carved from stone, massive yet warm with firelight. Bookshelves lined one wall, filled with leather-bound tomes. Weapons gleamed on racks, polished and orderly. This was no ordinary room. It was his, the Alpha's chamber. My pulse quickened. I swung my legs over the bed, bare feet brushing the cool floor. My green dress still clung to me, wrinkled from sleep. Every muscle tensed, unsure of where to step. A deep voice rumbled from the shadows. You're awake, I startled. Nathaniel emerged from a side alcove, freshly washed, his dark hair damp and falling in loose waves. A plain black shirt stretched across his broad chest, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked less like a fearsome Alpha and more like a man, yet no less powerful. I shouldn't be here, I stammered, heat rising to my cheeks. This is the Alpha's chamber. He tilted his head slightly, eyes glinting with quiet amusement. And you are the Alpha's mate. My Luna, where else should you be? The words struck me with both wonder and fear. But last night, that was real, he interrupted gently, stepping closer. His presence filled the room, a quiet storm of authority and heat. You said yes, Lyra, and I do not take vows lightly. I backed a step, my back brushing the bedpost. You don't even know me. Not truly. The pack doesn't want me. They never have. His eyes darkened, voice firm. The pack will learn. They follow my command. And I know enough. Enough? My voice cracked. That you risked your life for them when you had every reason. To hide, he said. That you worked until you collapsed without asking for recognition. That you carry the scars of your struggle without letting them harden your heart. That is enough. Emotion swelled hot in my chest. No one had ever spoken of me like this, not even Marin. But what if I fail you? His gaze softened, a rare vulnerability flickering in his eyes. Then we fail together. But I believe in you, Lyra, even if you don't yet believe in yourself. My throat tightened, words lost. I looked away, ashamed of the tears welling. He reached out, gently cupping my chin, guiding my eyes back to his. Do not hide from me, not your fear, not your strength. I want all of it, all of you. The intensity in his gaze made it hard to breathe. For a heartbeat, the world shrank to just us. The firelight flickering across his features, his hand, warm against my skin. A knock shattered the moment. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Enter. A door opened, and Kira swept in, flanked by 2 elders. Her gown glittered, her beauty striking even through the fury blazing in her amber eyes. Alpha, she began, her voice sharp with restrained rage. This cannot stand. Nathaniel straightened, his hand falling from my face. Careful, Kira. She ignored me entirely, her gaze fixed on him. You would throw away centuries of bloodlines, tradition, and strength for her? She spat the last word, as if it burned her tongue. My heart clenched, but Nathaniel's expression did not waver. I would choose what is best for this pack, and my decision is final. The council will object, she snapped. The people whisper already. They will not accept a Luna who cannot even shift. Nathaniel's voice cut like steel. The council serves at my will. The people will obey. And as for her, his gaze flicked to me, fierce and unyielding. Lyra has more courage than any of you who sneer from the shadows. That is the strength I honor. Kira's face twisted with fury. This is madness. You insult every woman who stood before you last night. You insult me. He stepped forward, towering over her. You insult yourself, Kira, with your arrogance. Leave, now. For a moment, I thought she would attack. Her hands curled into fists, nails gleaming like claws. But with a hiss of breath, she spun on her heel and stormed out, her skirts snapping behind her. The elders lingered uneasily. Alpha, one began. Surely we must discuss. There is nothing to discuss, Nathaniel said coldly. I have chosen. Speak against me, and you speak against the pack's unity. Do you truly wish to divide us further after last night's attack? The elder faltered, paling. No, Alpha. Then go, he commanded. They bowed stiffly and departed. Silence returned. My hands shook where I clutched the bedpost. You shouldn't have defended me like that. They'll only hate me more. Nathaniel turned back to me, his expression softening once more. Let them. Hatred burns quickly and dies to ash. Respect endures. They will see, and until then, I will shield you. I swallowed hard, overwhelmed. Why me, truly? Out of all of them. Why me? He stepped close again, his voice low and certain. Because the goddess does not make mistakes. She put you in my path, Lyra Blackwood, and I will not ignore destiny. My heart thundered, my body trembling with the weight of his words. And, for the first time in my life, I wondered just maybe if I was meant for more than survival. The days that followed blurred into something strange, caught between triumph and unease. The pack rebuilt swiftly shattered fences repaired, burned stores replaced, warriors strengthening defenses. Outwardly, life resumed its rhythm. But beneath the surface, whispers swirled like restless ghosts. Everywhere I walked, eyes followed. some wide with awe, some narrowed in contempt, most filled with bewilderment. The defective wolf, chosen as Luna? It was unthinkable. Marin tried to shield me. "Hold your head high," she urged as we walked the settlement's central path. "They must see you unafraid. That is what Lunas do." But fear coiled in my stomach with every whisper, every sideways glance. Even the children, who once laughed freely around me, now stared with questions in their eyes. Nathaniel noticed. He always did. One evening, as we walked the training fields, he slowed his stride until I fell in beside him. "Do not bow your head to them," he said softly, so only I could hear. "They do not see you yet, but they will." "I don't know how," I admitted, voice trembling. His amber eyes softened. "You lead not by strength of claw, but by strength of spirit. That is rarer and harder. Do not mistake rarity for weakness." His faith unsettled me, stirring something I didn't dare name. The council, however, was less subtle in their disapproval. On the third night after the attack, Nathaniel summoned me to attend a meeting. My pulse raced as I followed him into the great hall, its stone pillars rising high, firelight throwing shadows across the faces seated at the long table. Elder Vargas, stern as always, inclined her head. "Alpha, Luna." The word caught in her throat as though forced. The others did not even attempt politeness. "She cannot stand among us," Elder Bran muttered. "A Luna who cannot shift. The Black Claw will see it as weakness." "They already attacked," Nathaniel countered, his tone flat. "And we repelled them. Not because of bloodlines, but because of courage and unity." Bran's lip curled. "And what unity is forged when your choice divides us?" Silence fell. I sat rigid, unsure if I should speak. My hands clenched in my lap. Nathaniel's voice cut the tension. "You question me?" "No, Alpha," Bran said quickly, bowing his head. But resentment burned in his eyes. Afterward, as we walked back through the torchlit corridors, I whispered, "They hate me. They'll never accept me." Nathaniel glanced at me, his expression unreadable. "They will learn, or they will fall." The certainty in his voice should have comforted me. Instead, it unsettled me further. Was I truly worth such defiance? Nights in his chamber became a strange kind of sanctuary. I had been given a smaller adjoining room, but more often than not, I found myself drawn into his presence-sharing quiet. Meals, speaking of the pack's history, sometimes simply sitting in silence while he worked through reports and maps. One evening I asked, "Why do you let me see these things? The patrols, the borders, the supply lists?" He looked up from the parchment, brow furrowed. "Because you are my Luna. You should know what I know." "But no other Alpha has ever shared power with his mate," I said carefully. He leaned back, folding his arms. "No other Alpha has chosen you." The way he said it, like a truth carved in stone, made my breath hitch. I wanted to argue, to remind him again of my flaws. But his gaze silenced me, steady and unyielding that. So instead, I listened as he explained the patrol routes, how warriors rotated to avoid exhaustion, how the caves held secret passages only a handful knew. Piece by piece, he handed me the bones of our world, as though trusting me not to break them, and something inside me shifted. For the first time, I felt not like a shadow clinging to the edge of the pack, but like someone who belonged. But belonging did not erase danger. On the 7th night after the attack, scouts returned with grim news. Nathaniel summoned me to the council chamber. The moment I entered, the air prickled with tension. Maps were spread across the table, candles guttering in the draught. Warriors stood at attention, their faces pale. "The Black Claw are not retreating," one scout reported. "They've gathered twice their number near the northern ridge." And he hesitated, swallowing hard. "They are not alone." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "Explain." The scout's voice dropped. We saw markings, strange, twisted, like runes burned into the ground. They've allied with witches. A murmur of horror swept the room. Witches, rogue spellcasters who had long been exiled from Packlands. Their magic was unpredictable, dangerous, corrupting. Nathaniel's hand curled into a fist. So this is how they intend to break us. Not by claw, but by corruption. Rand sneered, his eyes flicking toward me. And you expect us to stand strong when our Luna is already broken? The words cut deep, though I tried not to show it. Nathaniel's fury exploded. Enough! Speak of her that way again, and you'll not speak at all. The elder fell silent, cowed, but hatred still simmered in his gaze. Nathaniel turned to me, his voice softer. Do not let their venom in. You are stronger than they know. But doubt not at me all the same. What strength did I truly have? Against witches and warriors bent on destruction? That night I could not sleep. I slipped from my chamber and wandered the dark halls, the pendant at my throat heavy with questions. I ended up on the training fields, watching as the moonlight spilled across the grass. Memories haunted me, failed shifts, bones cracking halfway, the sneers of other children. Always the same, not enough, never enough. You couldn't sleep. Either? I turned sharply. Nathaniel stood at the edge of the field, hands clasped behind his back. He walked toward me, the night air stirring his dark hair. I didn't mean to wake you, I murmured. You didn't. He stopped beside me, gazing out at the moonlit horizon. For a long time, we stood in silence. Finally, I whispered, What? If I fail you? What if I fail them? If I can't protect the pack? His gaze turned toward me, steady and fierce. Then we protect them together. You and I. Something inside me trembled, fragile and fierce all at once. But I can't even shift. Shifting is not everything, he said firmly. The bond we share, the trust you give me, is worth more than any claw. That is why I chose you. His hand brushed mine, warm against the night's chill. Slowly he laced his fingers with mine, grounding me. You will see, Lyra, he murmured. One day you will see yourself as I do. The words sank into me, deeper than I wanted to admit. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe he was right. But the Black Claw did not wait for self-discovery. Their shadow grew darker with each passing day. Scouts vanished. Livestock was found slaughtered, strange symbols carved into the earth. Fear gnawed at the pack, eroding the fragile unity Nathaniel fought to build. And through it all, whispers of dissent rose louder. She be the death of us. I overheard one woman hiss. The Alpha is blinded. She's cursed. Another. Muttered. Their words followed me everywhere, clinging like smoke. No matter Nathaniel's faith, doubt coiled around me like chains. Yet still, each night, he stood beside me. Each morning, he spoke to me of strategies, of healing, of the small joys hidden in our lives. Piece by piece, he anchored me to him, until I no longer knew where my fear ended and his strength began. But destiny is never kind for long. On the 10th night, the drums sounded again, low, urgent, summoning all. Warriors rushed to the square, weapons gleaming, eyes fierce. Nathaniel's voice carried like thunder. The Black Claw march upon us. And this time, they bring fire and magic. The crowd roared in fear and defiance. My heart pounded, my hands trembling. This would not be a skirmish. This would be war. And deep inside, though I feared the outcome, one truth echoed louder than the rest. For the first time in my life, I had something to lose. The warning drums still thundered in my ears when we gathered in the great square. Torches blazed against the night, lighting grim faces, ready weapons, and the fierce eyes of warriors lined shoulder to shoulder. Mothers clutched children to their chests, Elders whispered prayers to the moon goddess, and all the while the air thrummed with dread. Nathaniel stood at the front, towering, his voice steady and unshaken. "The Black Claw come not as raiders tonight," he declared, the weight of his words carrying to every ear. "They come as an army. They come with sorcery, with fire, with corruption." A ripple of unease ran through the crowd. But here, he continued, his gaze fierce. "We are Silver Crest. Our ancestors bled for these lands. And tonight, we will not surrender them. Not to claw, not to fang, not to false magic. We fight for our home, for our kin, for every breath the owl Goddess grants us." A roar of approval surged, though fear still lingered in their eyes. Beside him, I stood in silence, my heart hammering. The new Luna, the defective wolf. Many glanced at me, uncertain, doubtful, but Nathaniel did not waver. He took my hand, lifted it high before all. "Stand with me," he said. And though my knees trembled, though every instinct screamed that I was not enough, I did. The battle came like a storm. From the north, shadows poured, wolves twisted with rage, their eyes glowing red with witchcraft. Fire streaked across the sky, crashing into lodges. Screams split the night. "Defend the gates." Nathaniel roared, shifting in one fluid motion into his massive black wolf. He surged forward, leading the charge, his warriors following in a wave of fur and steel. I ran where I could, back to the healing lodge, where the wounded already streamed in. My hands worked without thought, binding gashes, pressing herbs to burns, forcing trembling children to drink water. The world narrowed to blood, cries, smoke, but no matter how I worked, dread gnawed at me. The witch's fire spread faster than we could smother it. Warriors fell under unnatural strength. And through it all, I felt a strange pull like the earth itself tugging at my chest, urging me outward. At last, I could not ignore it. Clutching my mother's pendant, I stumbled into the square. And there, I saw him. Nathaniel, locked in battle with the Black Claw's Alpha Massive, scarred, his body glowing faintly with witch marks. Each strike shook the earth. Nathaniel fought like a storm, but for every wound he gave, another opened on his flesh. Blood slicked his fur. "No," I whispered, terror crushing me. The pendant burned hot against my skin, as if alive. Pain flared. In my bones, sharp and sudden, the old agony of shifting. My knees buckled, but this was different, deeper, fiercer. Not a half form, not a broken twist. Something vast unfurled inside me, rising like a tide. My screams split the night. Light burst. From my body, silver, radiant, blinding. The battlefield stilled as wolves and witches alike turned to stare. My skin burned, my bones reshaping, but not into the jagged torment I had always known. This was whole, seamless, fierce. When the light dimmed, I stood not in human form, nor twisted halfway. I stood as wolf, but not like any other. My fur gleamed pure white, silver streaks glowing along my flanks. My eyes blazed the same pale fire as the moon. Gasps rose from the pack. Even Nathaniel froze for a heartbeat, awe flickering. In his amber gaze, power hummed in my veins, not just strength of claw, but something older, deeper. Magic, but not corrupted like the witch's, pure, fierce, untamed. The legacy my mother had whispered of, the gift I had thought a curse, now revealed in full. The Black Claw Alpha snarled, lunging for Nathaniel. But I leapt, striking him with a force that sent him crashing to the ground. Shock rippled across the field. "Lyra!" Nathaniel's voice echoed in my mind through the bond. For the first time, it was open, alive. "You're not broken." His thought burned with awe. "You were never broken. You were chosen. The rogue Alpha staggered to his feet, fury blazing. The witches shrieked, chanting, fire spiraling skyward. But the light within me surged brighter, burning away their corruption like mist before the sun. Their spells sputtered, their strength faltering. Now! Nathaniel roared. The pack surged forward, renewed with hope, tearing through the black. Claw lines. Wolves fell. Warriors triumphed. Fire died beneath silver light. The rogue Alpha lunged again, claws aimed at my throat. But Nathaniel struck, fangs sinking deep. Together, we brought him down my light, searing his corrupted flesh. Nathaniel's strength ending him with finality. The battlefield fell silent. The black claw, broken and leaderless, fled into the night. When dawn broke, the pack gathered in the square, weary but alive. Bodies of the fallen were laid with reverence, their names spoken in solemn honor. Yet amidst grief, awe shimmered in every face. They looked at me, not with contempt, but with wonder. "The White Wolf," someone whispered. "Goddesses chosen," another murmured. For once, I did not bow my head. I stood tall, Nathaniel at my side, our bond thrumming like a living flame between us. Elder Vargas stepped forward, her stern face softened with respect. "Alpha, Luna, the goddess herself has spoken through her." Nathaniel's hand clasped. Mine steady, warm. His voice carried, steady as stone. "You doubted her," he said to them all. "You doubted me. But now you see, Lyra Blackwood is no defect. She is our strength. She is our Luna." A roar of voices rose, cheers, howls, shouts of triumph. For the first time, they accepted me. Truly, holy tears blurred my vision. I turned to Nathaniel, whispering through the bond. "Why me? Why always?" "Me?" His gaze burned with devotion. "Because you are everything I never knew I needed. Because you are mine, and I am yours. Always." He drew me into his arms before them all, his lips pressing to mine. The crowd erupted, voices echoing through the mountains, sealing our union not just in ritual, but in victory, in destiny. That night, when silence returned, I lay curled against him in his chamber, my silver wolf form shimmering faintly in the end. Moonlight streaming through the window. "Do you believe it now?" he asked softly, fingers stroking my fur. I lifted my head, meeting his eyes. "That I below?" He smiled faintly. "That you were born to be more than you ever imagined." My heart swelled, my bond with him thrumming warm and certain. For the first time, I believed it too. I was not broken. I was not cursed. I was Luna. And no darkness would ever take that from me again.